As Democrats across the country celebrate the victory of Doug Jones in this week's Senate race, it is worth taking a closer look at the elements that made that victory possible. Our next guest played a significant role, I would say, in that entire process. Pastor Kenneth Glasgow down in Alabama is part of a program leader of a program to register, among other people, convicted felons who do have the right to vote under Alabama law. Pastor Glasgow is the founder and president of the Ordinary People Society, or TOPS. Did I get that right, Pastor Glasgow? The Ordinary People Society.
You got that right, and I got a couple of people right here with me that has just been put on the spot that helped me do everything that we're doing down here. And you know, there's always people in the background. So I'm going to get them to answer a couple of your questions during the interview, so therefore you get a variety of sorts.
Are you going to tell us who they are, or are they going to be our mystery guests?
Right, introduce yourself.
How you doing? My name is Portia Miller. I'm from Dothan, Alabama, but I live in Atlanta. They call me Queen.
All right. I'll call you Queen, too.
Hi, my name is Lou Martin. I live here in Dothan, Alabama. I'm the owner of S&M's Cafe Restaurant here in Dothan, and we've been working hard at it.
So when I get down there...
All right. And we got one more here. What's your name, sir?
My name is Lewis Miller. I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
And he's been out here helping us. So these are some of the people that help put the teams together with the formerly and currently incarcerated people. And I just wanted to lift up their voices for a minute. That's all. Thank you so much.
So now I know a pastor and a queen on the same phone call, huh?
Yeah, you met a pastor and a queen on the same time. You better be cool, though.
Oh, yeah.
Her husband now. That's her husband with her now.
All right. Okay. I got you. Okay. All right. So... Hey, listen, I wanted to ask you, Pastor Glasgow, so you're down there in Dothan, Alabama right now, where I also know how to get a good meal now, thanks to your friends there. Now, let me ask you, registering felons in Alabama to vote, that's allowed, right? I mean, they're still Americans, and unless they meet certain conditions, which we can talk about in a second, being a convicted felon does not mean you cannot vote in elections down there by law. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. In 2008, I won a lawsuit that was called the Moral Turpitude Act. The Moral Turpitude Act is written in the Constitution, the 1901 Alabama Constitution, that if you have a crime, a felony, that does not involve moral turpitude, then you should have never lost your voting rights. So for 106 years, they have been taking people's voting rights unconstitutionally. But they never had a definition of what crimes were crimes of moral turpitude. They just had an interpretation. Within that interpretation, they had 5 crimes listed. I'm going to name 4 of them to you. One was felony DUIs. One was doing business without a license. One was aiding and abetting an inmate escape. And then one was possession. So in 2007, 2008, we started going inside the prisons, registering people to vote. Mike Hubbard, who was the Speaker of the House and the chairman of the Republican Party, profusely fought against me. And the irony of it is the fact that Mike Hubbard fought against me going inside the prisons and jails, registering people to vote, but now he's in jail for 13 counts of fraud and benefited from the same law and lawsuit that I put in that he fought against so profusely.
That is interesting. And Pastor Glasgow, I wanted to tell you, too, before this interview, I was trying to wrap my head around this moral turpitude thing, so I did a little reading on it. Right? And this last election was between Doug Jones and Roy Moore, the Republican, and it seems to me that the crimes of moral turpitude that invalidate you to vote in the state of Alabama some of them are exactly the crimes that Roy Moore was accused of. Now,
not only that, Roy Moore's a judge. So, you know, even before we get to Roy Moore, the accused crimes or the alleged crimes that he committed, let's get to the fact that he's a judge, and the 1901 Constitution states the Moral Turpitude Act, that people with felonies could vote, and he's supposed to enforce and uphold the law and wanted to go against the law, that a Republican governor and a Republican Secretary of State said that we got to do it because it's the right thing to do. So that's first before we even go to what he's alleged of. How could you be a judge? What kind of hypocrisy is that you uphold and enforce the law, but you don't like the law, so you don't like that, you're not going to uphold and enforce that part?
Yes, of course. I mean, that's absolutely right. And I'm just looking now at the Campaign Legal Center, some of these definitions: enticing a child to enter a vehicle for immoral purposes, facilitating solicitation of unlawful sexual conduct. Now, of course, these are just accusations, but a lot of people come forward: unlawful sexual contact with the child, felicitate. It seems to me there was just now you're a man of the cloth. It just seems to me that there was an awful lot of hypocrisy going around in Alabama around Roy Moore's campaign, and a lot of it was by people who call themselves Christians. What do you think?
Yeah, that's right, man. Well, you have to look at the fact of what's going on in this race, right? You have Roy Moore that was accused of all these sexual crimes and all that. So even if he was convicted, he couldn't even fall up under the Moral Turpitude Act to vote or have his votes back. Okay, that's first and foremost. But you also got to look at the fact that the people inside the prisons and jails was very enthusiastic and very interested and inspired to get involved and engaged in this. And they voted because of their ability to vote, because they earned their right to vote. And really and truly, I have to explain to them every day, you did not earn your right to vote. You never should have actually lost it. And then I had to convince them, and when they was trying to decide who to vote for, and they got into a big debate within jails and prisons, informally incarcerated out here, because now they had to choose between a judge and a former prosecutor. And, well, they chose the former prosecutor because they said at least we can make a deal with the DA. The judge is the one that sentenced us.
Well, the wheels of justice grind slow, but, it's interesting how that one worked out. And by the way, I do want to point out for our listeners, Pastor Glasgow, that your organization, you don't register folks based on how you think they're going to vote. You register them because they've got the right to vote. Am I correct about that?
Well, we've been registering people inside the jail since 2003. We started this in 2003, started going all over the state of Alabama. We didn't win the lawsuit in 2008. And there's no requirement on the registration of asking what party you belong to. Of course, I can see that they're black or white, but, down here, when it comes to formerly incarcerated people, we are the most diverse movement and group you ever seen. When we're in prison, we black, we white, we heterosexual, we homosexual, we Hispanic, we Asian, we whatever you want to call, So we don't ask that, and that's not a requirement of it. It's the right thing to do. It's the law. And what it is that another thing I couldn't understand is how Roy Moore, who states that he's such a conservative of conservatives, that stands behind the rebel flag and the Confederate flag because it's not racist, but it's about his history and his ancestors. If you're such a conservative and you stand behind your history and your ancestors, why are you going against your history and ancestors that wrote the Moral Turpitude Act in the Constitution in 1901? Because surely it didn't apply to black folks back then. Surely it wasn't Democrats who wrote it then. It was your conservative people that wrote it and what it applied to. So, those are just things that I would love to point out that we have to look at. So we were able to get those votes in, and what people got to look at now is what we're going to continue to do for 2018. I wasn't able to get but maybe 5,000 this time. But there's 290,000 people that are disenfranchised in the state of Alabama. 7 to 10% of them fall up under those 46 crimes that are crimes of moral turpitude. That leaves approximately 200,000 out there that could be able to vote in these next 2018 elections. With that being said, my one clause or one agreement in my lawsuit is that when they vote, they don't vote from the county they're housed in. They vote from the county they come from. So we'll be able to effectuate every local election that comes up. And in 2018, everybody come up. The judges, the DAs, the legislators, everybody.
Well, that's important to know, and it's important work. So before I let you go, Pastor Glasgow, why don't you, if you would please, tell our listeners where they can go to find out more information about your work?
Well, they could go to theordinarypeoplesociety.org, theordinarypeoplesociety.org, and you can find out about our work, and you'll start to see a whole bunch of different other people's work there, because it's a lot of formerly incarcerated, convicted people across this country that's doing work. I'm just the one highlighted. I've been doing it the longest, but now I'm over 50 now, so I'm trying to get some more help now. I'm getting tired.
All right,
so
well,
a lot of the younger folks and all. One of the things I want to highlight to you that's a debut for you. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
We changed the voting laws. We broke the Republicans back with their voter ID laws. We took two guys who were formerly incarcerated. One did 6 years, one did 4. One just got out about 3 months ago, and one been out for over a year. We took them to vote. They didn't have their ID. We took them to the city jail, got their mugshots and their records, took them back to the voting polls. They argued with me for about an hour and a half, called the Secretary of State and all, because how could you tell me they can't use their mugshot and their city jail records for ID when they have been ID'd better than anybody else by their fingerprint? So we're breaking the back of their voter ID laws.
Well, that was a master move, and I applaud you for that. And I guess we'll end on that happy note and that little bit of a scoop. Pastor Kenneth Glasgow, thanks for your good work. Thank you also to my friends there who you introduced me to, and God save the Queen.
All right, then.
All right. Thanks, you all, and best of luck, and keep up the great work.
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah.